Hello, I'm Papa Bruce. I need a name for my channel. I'm going to tell you about myself, my hobbies, my interest, and maybe let my audience name my channel. If I pick one, I'll do something for the winter. I'm not sure what yet, but I'll do something. Let's see, jobs I've had. I've been in the Air Force. I joined in 1977 and got out in 1986. I was in San Antonio, Texas, Wichita Falls, Texas, Fairchild Air Force Base, Spokane, Washington, Elmendorf Air Force Base, Anchorage, Alaska. The Air Force Academy is Colorado Springs, Colorado. I got out, as I said, in 1986. I went to live with my brother for a little bit in Dallas, Texas. I worked for a company called GSW and Associates in Dallas. It was a good company. I enjoyed it. We surveyed underground water lines and sewer lines, and I went. The government has ceased a couple of the grants they were given to cities for upgrading their sewer lines. So that GSW had no choice but to lay a bunch of us off because of the government. The truck driving, I went, once I got laid off there, I went to a truck driving school. American Truck Driving School, ATDS, and they were based out of Elmont, Texas. And I learned how to drive a truck again. It had been a long time since my Uncle Jim, may he rest in peace, showed me how to float gears and to drive an 18-wheeler. So I already knew when I went. I just had to take the course to get the license to learn the laws and all that. So I ended up driving a truck. The first company I drove for was National Freight, which I believe I had the oldest truck in the fleet. The reason they didn't get rid of it is they had just put a brand new motor in it, and they were going to get your money out of the motor, I guess. It was a 58 mile an hour truck, and I hated it. Then these are not necessarily in order, but I drove for A&B Freight for about a year. Then I drove for SEX, Southeastern Express, SEX, out of Fort Worth for about a year. Not long. And then while I was working for A&B Freight, they moved me to Glenwood, Arkansas in 1990. I had met my wife Kathy in Fort Worth, and we moved to Glenwood, Arkansas, and got married. And I drove a big truck for about 6 months. I can't remember the name of the company, but man, they worked my tail off. They said they'd get me another helper or driver, but they never did. So after that, I went to Millwood Trucking out of Nashville, Arkansas. I drove for them for a little while until I got a call from Ronnie Wagner from Legan Oil out of Norman, Arkansas. And he wanted to know if I wanted to drive local. And I said I would. So I hauled gas and diesel for, I guess it was about a year. I'm not really sure. And I had a heart attack when I was 35 years old. I was coming back from Little Rock, and I was at the rest area between I-30 and Hot Springs on Highway 70. And, well, I didn't have the heart attack at that point. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I called him at the home. I told him if I didn't call him back in an hour, I was headed to the emergency room. So anyway, 8 o'clock that morning I had a heart attack. I felt it coming 6 to 10 hours before it actually happened. But as a result, I couldn't haul gas and diesel anymore. It was a liability for the company, and they wouldn't insure me. So I went to drive for Bean Trucking out of Morrilton, Arkansas, and then I got in contact with I guess you'd call him a dispatcher. His name was Damon Daniels. A really good guy. And he asked me if I'd ever hauled a flatbed. I just said no, but I've been looking at the way they tie things down and, the different aspects of it, because I didn't want to haul a dry box or reefer all my life. I like doing different things. So I told him I would give him a call back in about 6 months, and I would look really close at how the flatbedders tied their loads down and all that. And I did. And I called him up, and he asked me what kind of truck I wanted. He got me a Freightliner with a big sleeper, Aerodyne sleeper. This is Las Vegas gold. That was a good old truck. That sucker would move too. And I drove for Montgomery Freight for Damon Daniels for a little while. And then when I got off Kathy, something happened to Kathy. I can't remember what it was. I think it was her first back surgeries. So that would have been about 94 to 96 in there somewhere. And I knew if Kathy couldn't go with me, she went with me on a lot of these companies with Bean Trucking and Montgomery Freight. She wasn't allowed on the Legal Oil truck. I couldn't have any passengers. And Millwood Trucking, I couldn't have any passengers. But for sex, she went with me for about a year, almost the whole time I drove that truck. Anyway, then I went to work at Bean Lumber at the mill in Glenwood, and I was throwing lumber, shoveling sawdust, and all that for a couple of years. And I got into mowing lawns, and a friend of mine, Junior York, died of throat cancer, and he had the majority of the lawns. Did a really good job, by the way. And when he died, the next growing season, I got a whole bunch of phone calls wanting me to mow their yard. So my business went from 8 lawns to about 40 lawns in about 3 months. And I quit Bean Lumber for a while. And as soon as I did, it never rained another drop for about 5-6 months. And we kind of had a drought that year. But it turned out to be pretty bad news because I wasn't making any money mowing lawns. Even though I had that many lawns, if they didn't need mowed, I wasn't going to just mow it and take the people's money. So I got was driving on the road again for Damon Daniels, I believe. And when I got off the road, at the time they were building a new power plant at Bean Lumber, and the boss come knocking on my door one morning. We had went to church together, and he knew I operated boilers in the Air Force, I think. And he come knocking on my door and asked me if I'd come to work for him. And I told him I'd have to think about it for a while, so I can't remember how much longer I drove for Damon Daniels. But I eventually went to work at the power plant before they fired it up. Because I was working nights at the old boiler and learning how to run the unit on day shift. That's a new unit. And so I was working ungodly hours. And anyway, I worked at that power plant for, I don't know, since 1996, I guess, until they shut down in about 2001 or 2002, 2003, something like that. And I had read articles about this new power plant they were going to build in Fulton, Arkansas. I didn't want to leave Glenwood, but there wasn't nothing left in Glenwood to work. And well, I read articles that they were going to do a lot of the hiring out of the college in Hope. And I had always wanted to find some kind of college course related to power plants, and I found one. It was at UCCH, UACCH, University of Arkansas. Oh well, UACCH, and they had an associate. I believe it was an associate's degree in power plant technologies or something like that. So I began going to college, and I moved to Hope because I couldn't afford to drive from Glenwood to Hope every day going to college. Well, me and my wife moved to Hope. Then I got hired after the first year. I got hired at the power plant. AEP is SWEPCO. Had an interview with Andy Brannon and Doyle. And they hired me. And I've been working at the power plant ever since, and I love it. Anyway, as I've been there, it's going on 6 or 7 years, and realized that my retirement was coming up, and I wanted to do something with my retirement. I wasn't just going to sit around. So what I plan on doing in my retirement is, number one, taking care of my wife. My wife is disabled, and I take care of her. Then, with the time I've got left, I want to make some, build some custom bullets. I want to hand load some accurate bullets. I'm not going to just load up 300, 300 bullets with, just dumping a bunch of powder in it. I don't do that. I measure each load. I measure each case, make sure all the case lengths are the same. The throat, the diameter, I push the bullet in the same on every bullet on that load. If they want me to make 100 of them, I'll make 100 of them the same. The same primers, the same powders, the same loads, the same bullets, the same depth, everything. And then I'm going to also make some wind chimes. I have found a website by Lee Height and you'll find out that in my process of making videos, I don't have a problem if I learn a little information from a certain person. If it's okay with them, I will use their name on the good side. If I've got something bad to say about somebody, I probably won't say anything about them unless it's like as a company like Grizzly, who told me that, or pretty much that I didn't know what I was talking about or what I needed. But anyway, I'm going to make some wind chimes. I've got aluminum. I've got some stainless. And I do have a problem with my talking, if you haven't noticed. But I try to pick and choose my words, but some of them I don't have a way of getting around that. But I'm going to make some wind chimes. Different kinds of pipe. I've got everything from 3/4 inch all the way up to 4 inch. I've only got one piece of 4 inch, so I can't make a wind chime out of that yet. I'm going to make some things out of paracord. I made a buddy of mine a rifle sling, and I said I wasn't going to make any more. But if the price is right, I may end up making another rifle sling. I ain't going to do it very cheap. That took a couple weeks. A lot of knots and a lot of paracord. I plan on retiring on the Caddo River. My wife has got some property down there. It's a family property on the river, overlooking it. It's a gorgeous place, and I'm going to help my wife's family. Her mom is in a nursing home voluntarily, and we'll go visit her and help with Kathy's immediate family. There's a few things about myself. It seems like I've been talking about myself the whole time. I'll be 60 years old in August. I'm retired in 8 or 9 years. My granddaughter gave me the name Papa Bruce, or Paw Bruce, or P-A-W Bruce, and I would like that included in my a workshop name, or whatever you want to call it. My craft name, my YouTube channel name, whatever this video is for. And let's see, I've been married 3 times. The first time was 10 years. The second time was a mistake. I think it lasted about 2 years. The third time, I married Kathy, and we've been married since 1990, almost 30 years. But we've known each other, to get this, all our life, or nearly all our life. I was 12 years old. She was my babysitter at 15. And yes, I married my babysitter. And that's a whole nother tale in itself.